I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Tuesday, April the 29th, 2014. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry reiterated his support for Israel and reacted to the fallout over his use of the word apartheid to describe the type of state Israel could be at risk of becoming if peace talks fail and a two-state solution is not reached. As we reported to you yesterday, the Daily Beast had reported that during a private meeting this past Friday with officials from the U.S., Europe, and Japan, Kerry spoke about why a two-state solution was the only alternative for Israel, saying because a unitary state winds up either being an apartheid state with second-class citizens, or it ends up being a state that destroys the capacity of Israel to be a Jewish state. Kerry's remarks sparked strong criticism for his use of the word apartheid in this context. In response, the Secretary of State said in a statement last night that he would not allow his commitment to Israel to be questioned by anyone. Kerry said, "Israel is a vibrant democracy, and I do not believe, nor have I ever stated publicly or privately, that Israel is an apartheid state or that it intends to become one." However, Kerry also acknowledged that his choice of the use of the term apartheid was not the best. He said, "I have been around long enough to also know the power of words to create a misimpression, even when unintentional. And if I could rewind the tape, I would have chosen a different word to describe my firm belief that the only way in the long term to have a Jewish state and two nations and two peoples living side by side in peace and security is through a two-state solution." French news agency AFP reports that Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas gave a televised address today, laying out his conditions for returning to peace talks with Israel. Abbas said in his address that only with first defining the borders of a future Palestinian state can there be peace. He also said that in order to extend negotiations with Israel, there has to be a prisoner release, a settlement freeze, and a discussion of the maps and borders for 3 months. Today, April the 29th, is the date that U.S. Secretary of State Kerry put into place when negotiations restarted last July as a 9-month deadline for talks between Israel and the Palestinians. Talks have not taken place since Abbas announced the unity deal between rival Palestinian factions Fatah and terror group Hamas. The Jewish mayor of East Ukrainian city Kharkiv, who was shot in an apparent assassination attempt, is now being treated in Israel. Gennady Kearns, who was flown to Israel late last night and is being treated at the private Elisha hospital in Haifa. Chief Rabbi of Ukraine, Moshe Moskowitz, said that a doctor from Haifa had flown to Ukraine yesterday to examine the injured mayor, who was said to be in critical condition after the attack, and that doctor then decided to fly Kearns back with him to Israel for further treatment. Moskowitz said that as far as he knew, the decision to take Kearns to Israel for treatment was a private family decision. It is still unknown who was behind the attack on the mayor. A mosque in the northern Israeli Arab town of Foradis was vandalized overnight in an apparent price tag attack. Graffiti was spray painted on the walls of the mosque, and tires of vehicles in the area were slashed. Price tag attacks are thought to be acts of protest by Jewish right-wing extremists of the Israeli government's policies towards the settlements or in response to Palestinian terror. The graffiti spray painted on the mosque's walls today read, "Close mosques, not yeshivot," likely a reference to the takeover earlier this month of a yeshiva in the West Bank settlement of Yitzhar by an Israeli border police unit. Israeli Justice Minister Tzipi Livni reacted to the recent price tag attack. She wrote on her Facebook page today, quote, "This morning we woke up to hatred and racism among us." Livni promised residents of Foradis that she will do all that she can to catch those responsible for the attack, put them on trial, and have them serve a serious sentence. Livni said price tag crimes aren't against Arabs, they're against us, against everyone who wants our country to be Jewish and democratic. The Israel office of the Simon Wiesenthal Center praised the United States and Germany for their efforts to hunt down Nazi war criminals. In an annual report released on Sunday, both countries were placed in Category A of the states which, quote, have taken all reasonable measures to identify the potential suspected Nazi war criminals in the country in order to maximize investigation and prosecution, and have achieved notable results during the period under review. And staying with the Wiesenthal Center, the organization's Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles held a special Yom HaShoah commemoration ceremony yesterday featuring Anne Frank's closest living relative, first cousin Buddy Elias, who addressed the crowd and stressed the need to fight anti-Semitism and erase hatred. Elias also spoke of the new experiential exhibit at the museum in honor and memory of his cousin, aptly titled Anne. Elias said, "Our partners of this wonderful exhibit tell the story of the life of Anne and of the Frank family, and I'm delighted that thousands of young people will learn about Anne." He said Anne would have been proud and happy that her message for peace was in this museum. Jewish leaders joined members of Congress, officials from Germany, and diplomats today to mark the publication of an unprecedented historic 2-volume work documenting for the first time in English the synagogues destroyed on November the 9th of 1938 in Germany and Austria, referred to by the Nazis as Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, referred here as Pogromnacht, the night of the pogrom, an organized and violent attack against the Jewish people. The ceremony was hosted by House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Ed Royce and Ranking Minority Member Elliot Engel. It comes a day after Holocaust Memorial Day. In attendance were Israel's ambassador to the United States, Ron Dermer, Deputy Chief of Mission, Embassy of Germany to the U.S., Dr. Philip Ackerman, Chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the German Bundestag, Norbert Röttgen, and CEO of the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations, Malcolm Hoenlein, who was involved in the project from the beginning. The project, which took over 10 years to research and compile, reveals a much greater number of Jewish houses of worship that were destroyed than was thought previously, and is meant to convey the true scope of the destruction and loss of that night and the aftermath, at the same time recalling the vibrant Jewish life that existed in the communities beforehand. And turning now to our Shalom TV programming for Tuesday, April the 29th. At 6:30, former commander of British forces in Afghanistan, Colonel Richard Kemp, analyzes the global effort to delegitimize the State of Israel and describes the IDF's uniquely moral combat rules of engagement. Later at 8:30, a historical video produced by the David Horowitz Freedom Center on Israel's birth and survival. And then at 9 o'clock, former Deputy Foreign Minister of Israel, Dani Ayalon, joins Mark Golub on L'chaim. That's tonight here on Shalom TV and shalomtv.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Tuesday, April the 29th, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader.